So, Linda, thank you for joining us. You're going to share with us an experience you have as a bus driver for special needs children. How old are they?
Okay, the children are between 3 and 4 years of age.
Okay. And if I recall our earlier conversations on this, they have their special needs in that they have a lot of issues that you're really not sure what they are. Nobody tells you exactly what they are, but you suspect we got Down syndrome, autism, and things like that, correct?
Exactly, yes.
All right. And so they're 3 or 4 years old. They have these issues. And when they get on a strange school bus to go to some other place other than the home they are used to, they get emotionally upset. Is that the right way to say it?
Yes. That is a very good way of putting it. They can be crying, they can be screaming, they can be throwing temper tantrums where they're physically trying to hurt themselves. They can be doing a lot of things, yes.
And so as a bus driver, driving them to their eventual destination, I mean, you go by, you pick them up one by one at their homes, they come on scene, etc. If you didn't have something to calm them down, I'm curious how you could even drive your bus. Talk about that for a minute, could you?
Well, I've got 11 years driving the school bus, so that kind of helps. It makes it very difficult to drive a school bus. I know from talking with other bus drivers that they find ways to tune it out. They find ways that it doesn't affect them. I've never figured out how that works because it affects me. And while I can drive while they are upset, it makes it very difficult to drive.
Yeah.
And my first thing and most important is that they're safe.
Yeah, and I haven't had this experience, but I can just imagine, I mean, if they're really upset and have a lot of emotional unrest and have these other issues like autism, Down syndrome, and so on, they can be of a danger to each other. They can get up and run up and down the aisle in the bus, not sit down. Am I guessing right?
On a normal school bus, you would be right. This special needs bus that I'm driving has what's called integrated seat belts. So they are harnessed into the seats, so they cannot hurt each other. Or, fortunately, they all sit in their own seats, so nobody can touch anybody else. But yes, if they could reach each other, yes, they could be a danger to each other and themselves.
All right. So they cause all this commotion, but you have been a student of optimal EFT, the unseen therapist.
Yes.
And I'm going to have you describe this in a minute, but in my terms, as I understand it, you will sit there while driving the bus, and while the commotion is going on behind you, you will just simply call in the unseen therapist in behalf of everybody surrogately, all these young commotion children, and they calm down.
Yes.
All right. And if I understand your email to me, that calming down is often instant or close to it. The most it ever takes is 2 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah. Talk about what happened. Talk about, you're sitting there behind your wheel, you're hearing the commotion. Talk about what you do.
Okay. What I start with is noticing, first thing obviously is noticing that they're upset. And not every child is always upset. So the first day I drove them, the first child that got on the bus was very upset. And as I went around and picked them up, I didn't call in the unseen therapist, which I'm not kicking myself, but everybody seemed to feed off each other so that they were upset, really upset. And when I finally clued in and said, okay, I have a tool that I can calm them down. because a lot of drivers will either, like I said, tune them out, or they'll pull over to the side of the road, let them get calm, and then start driving again. It usually makes everybody late. So what I tried that very first day is I calmed myself down, because children getting upset can tend to upset me.
Sure.
And I call it centering, where I concentrate on the spot that's right under the diaphragm. And while I'm thinking of that, I asked the unseen therapist to come in and help if she was able. And I'm still very young in my unseen therapist learning, but that was the wording I chose in my head. And like I said, within 2 minutes, this is the first day of school, first time these kids have been away from their parents on a strange school bus, and they stopped crying. It was amazing. It was, thank you, unseen therapist, because I had no other idea of what to do to calm them down.
All right. So you did that once on that first trip, but you have had many other trips.
Yes.
Have you done it every single trip? Have they tended to calm down in the meantime, or what happens after the first trip?
Guy that is just not happy on the bus. And the first week, I think a lot of it had to do with him becoming ill, because by the end of the week, he was rather ill at home with Dad. The other one...
I'm sorry, you said he was ill?
Yes, he was becoming sick over the week.
Yeah.
And he was the one that kept crying. As soon as Dad left him, he would start crying. Sometimes it didn't take that long. Sometimes he'd be crying as his dad is getting him on the bus. And I would call in the unseen therapist just for him. And it was amazing. He would, and it gets less and less every time, he would stop crying. He was not happy,
I would imagine,
but he would stop crying.
I would imagine, but correct me if I'm wrong, that if you do this with some consistency, every time they get on the bus, you bring an unseen therapist, there's a calming effect, and so on. After a while, you need to do less and less of it, and they just tend to be calmer. Would I be right?
Oh, yes. In fact, one child, I'm told, is not very friendly or happy. And on the bus, he is, the caregiver that puts him on the bus is always amazed. He's ecstatic to see the bus. He is, gets on the bus and says, "Yay, bus." At school, he says, "Hooray!" So it's been wonderful to see. And the only thing I can think of is the unseen therapist, because as I've been told, this child is not a happy child.
Yes. Okay. All right, Linda, I want to thank you. This can be of use to not only bus drivers, okay, but just about anybody who's dealing with children and or groups of people, like school teachers, for example. Okay, one example of all that. So I think your message is going to be helpful to everyone. You're doing all this surrogately, is the word that we use, and in behalf of everybody else. You're not sitting them down one by one and saying, "Okay, now let's bring in the unseen therapist for you." You're just simply sitting behind the wheel of your bus. Yep. Bringing her in. All right. Good. Linda, thank you. Big hug to you. Very nice.
Thank you, Gary. Big hug. Appreciate your time.